They hung up.
Oh, darn.
Yeah, I know. All right, so I'm going to mute this over here. I see you.
Hello.
And I also put in a link um, only in the live chat for if anybody wanted to join us.
Oh, okay.
Um, I'm hesitant about putting it in Facebook because, well, people might get confused as to which one to watch.
Oh,
But anyway, happy Friday.
yay.
Oh my God. Would you believe the sun is actually shining here?
I wish I could say the same thing. It's snowing like a mad bastard out there.
It's not that bad here yet. I have a feeling it's going to be, and we're going to get snow this weekend. And
You know,
I'm
we always get hit first, and then you get it later and more of it.
the snow came off our metal roofs yesterday, and I have snowbanks in front of my windows that are taller than the bottom section of the window. So if the bottom section of the window is like this, snow's up to here.
Oh my God. You
Yeah,
have tall windows too.
I literally feel like talk about cabin fever. But anyway, this week's live chat is all about marketing, and I am just going to turn it over to Janice because she is far better at all of this stuff than I think I am. I know enough to be dangerous. She really is dangerous. So,
I don't know about that, but I'm not going to talk
my go-to person.
I'm not going to talk about anything platform specific since there is so much out there. We'll touch on the various platforms, but nothing that I'm going to talk about here is going to be for any one thing. All of the information we're going to talk about is real generalized about how to go and get yourself out there. Because Nancy did have a question on Facebook last week about how to get more exposure. And a lot of this is dependent on what it is you're selling. Whether you're selling an already made item or whether you're selling jewelry, or when I say already made item, I'm talking about crocheted or knit item, or whether you're selling jewelry or patterns. Is for most of you, I think, as far as I'm aware, I'm the only person that is even interested in doing hand dyed yarn. But we're going to talk about various ways to do this because people hate marketing. It's a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work. And people are often when they start a small business, and this is not anything that's necessarily um, confined to a small handmade business like yours. But people start a business, they think they throw a website up, and the next thing you know, they're going to get 4,000 jillion tons of traffic and be wildly successful. And it is just not that simple. So there are various ways you can sell your product, but whether or not you choose to have a standalone website or sell on Etsy or do Facebook Marketplace or uh, if you're a pattern maker, sell your stuff through Ravelry. That's outside the purview of this conversation. We're just going to try and talk about how to get more eyeballs on your product. Um, so advertising, it's going to cost you money. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're going to have an advertising budget, and you're going to have to think about how you're going to use this advertising budget. It's not. It doesn't necessarily have to be huge, but it needs to be there. And what you need to do is try and decide. Now, I don't think there's any way to specifically advertise through Etsy, although I will tell you that that is the platform that I know the least about. So you've got other ways of doing this. Social media is your best bet, but it takes a lot of work. It's going to be the least amount of money. Nancy's over here going, "Oh yeah," but it is. It's a lot of work. But it's going to take the least amount of money. Um, Hypothetically speaking, social media can cost you nothing because Facebook's free, Pinterest is free, Instagram is free, Twitter is free. All this stuff is free. And if you have all the time in the world to spend all day on these platforms, just out there, out there, out there, then you're probably going to be a little bit more successful. You are going to have to, and all four of those platforms are important uh, for different reasons. If you want people to actually, uh, people can actually get eyes on your product no matter what the social media platform. But Instagram and Pinterest are probably better visually. Um, Twitter is more text based, although you can uh, add a picture to a tweet. And of course, Facebook is sort of multifunctional as far as that goes. So you want to, and Instagram and Pinterest together are a really wonderful combination. But you, and so think about this, but you're going to need an Instagram account and you're going to need a Pinterest account. Right? Um, and don't be afraid to pin your own stuff. I used to have a very, well, not very, but reasonably successful food blog that did generate income. And every time I posted a recipe, I went and pinned it on my own Pinterest account. And you'd be amazed at how often this stuff comes up in a search. I have one recipe on there for butternut squash pancakes that has been viewed over 22,000 times on Pinterest. So people can see your stuff. But you need to focus on it. You need to be active on it. And the same thing goes for Instagram. Now, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and Pinterest, if I'm not mistaken, all will take your money to boost your posts on each and
Yeah.
every platform. And I don't have really any sort of experience with the other three, but I have quite a bit with Facebook. And if you want a potential audience to see your product on Facebook, you're going to have to. You're going to have to pay them because of the way their algorithms work. Another thing too, don't be afraid, no matter whether you've got a website or an Etsy store or you sell on Ravelry, Facebook Marketplace is a wonderful thing. Um, I'm not sure what their qualifications are for selling for a business, but we recently sold our house and had a great deal of really great response for selling some big items that we weren't taking with us when we sold the house. Exercise equipment and shelving and all this other stuff. And I mean, stuff went like that within 12 hours. So you might want to look at Facebook uh, uh, Marketplace too. But yes, all of them will take your money. You don't necessarily have to pay a whole lot of money. I was generally doing, it's been a while, but uh, about $35 per post uh, on Facebook, and it really did help get more followers to my Facebook page, which directed more followers to my website. And since I ran Google Ads on my website, generated more money. Um, you, I would say that unless you really, really want to find out and know what you're doing, to stay away from Google Ads. Because it can get expensive if you don't know the difference between pay per click and pay per view and all this other stuff. And while they generally are pretty good about keeping, especially the pay per click stuff, they're generally pretty good about keeping people or your uh, uh, rivals, away from clicking on your ads over and over and over again to make sure that you have to pay a whole lot more money so that you don't want to do Google ads anymore. Stuff like that does happen. So Google ads is a whole different animal, and I would suggest spending your money elsewhere for because the if Instagram and Pinterest and Twitter or anything like Facebook, it is really, really easy to pay to promote your posts on those platforms. So that's just a general thing. Also, if you are a maker that can sell on Ravelry, Ravelry has several very good, very affordable uh, uh, options for taking out ads. If you go on Ravelry, you'll see over on the sidebar and down at the bottom on the side over to the right are little boxes. They run 2 or 3 at a time. And then down at the bottom of almost every page is a banner ad. And you can go in there and select what kind you want and where you want it to show up on Ravelry. So if you're selling crochet patterns, you won't be stuck on knitting pages. And if you sell spinning fiber, you're not going to go and get stuck on a crochet page. They can and will target your ads, and you can pay to have them on the front page at certain times of day for certain amounts of time and things like that. Of course, when you pay for front page exposure on any platform, it's going to cost you more money. But you should probably budget at least $50 a month to begin with on advertising. As you build up a following, you'll probably want to spend more because you'll see how effective it is. But chances are you can essentially spend a little bit less as time goes by. But really what you want to do is you want to get followers. And the most effective places for that are those 4 social media platforms. So that's the basics. If you want details, I guess Nancy and I can go into that because we've both done a great many of these things. So, oh yeah, if you've got a website, and everybody should have one, even if it's just a little, even if you don't want to sell on your website, you should have some sort of website. And if you sell on Etsy, it should go back to Etsy. If you sell through another platform, Shopify or anything like that, it can point back to Shopify and Etsy to sell your stuff. But you should have a website that is purely informational, has some pictures of your stuff, tells about you, and newsletters. Nancy's really good at this. Newsletters. And you want these people to be, they have to opt in. You can't just go out and start adding email addresses. So you'll have to go and push your stuff out on some of these other social media platforms. But newsletters are an excellent way to get eyes to your site, which will get eyes to your product. And once you've got a reasonable, not even once you've got a reasonable following on your newsletter, sign up. A good way to start off: contests, giveaways, freebies. Nancy can talk about that because she does that sort of marketing really, really well. But these are there are all sorts of ways to do this. You just need to figure out which one you want to do and and what you think you'll be most effective at. But it is a lot of work, I'm sorry to say.
No, you're right. It is. I mean, it's a horrible amount of work. I have the day off from the day job today, and I've been sitting here this morning, and I've been finishing up the blog post for tomorrow, and trying to get that all geared up, and it is a ton of work. Now, a lot of you guys may know this already, so I'm sorry if this is all kind of like redundant. MailChimp is awesome for newsletters. It's also pretty darn easy to use. But the best thing about MailChimp is it's free for like a humongous number of subscribers. It's either 1,000 or 2,000.
Yeah,
And
because you can do that with Constant Contact, but it's only up to 100.
yeah,
Then you start paying $45 a month.
yeah, and so I mean, as we're all starting out, and I will admit it, I'm cheap. You know, I mean, I really am. I like to watch my pennies. Um, but the cool thing about MailChimp is you can hook it up to your WordPress blog, and every time you create a blog post, it MailChimp will capture that and send it off automatically as, a weekly update. So therefore, people don't have to always go to your website in order to see what you did for a new blog post. And it's really pretty simple to just set it up. You just go in and you make this funky little rule, and as soon as that post is published, it goes over and says, "Hey, MailChimp, this is here," and it just sends everything off, and it's all automated behind the scenes. And I won't tell you that setting it up um, isn't
A
a
pain in the ass.
project. I mean, it's at least a good 2 or 3 hour chunk, because you want to design what your weekly newsletter looks like. Um, but once you have it, you don't have to touch it unless you rebrand. Okay. Um, Now, also built right into WordPress, download Jetpack. Um, Jetpack has free and paid tiers. Um, and the with the free one, you can get it to you hook it up to your Facebook page. You can hook it up to your Google Plus page. You can hook it up to Twitter, um, and it will automatically post that new blog post. So there's a set it up and forget it. Now, Pinterest and Instagram aren't so automated.
Oh, and absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up because they're not. You have to physically go out and either pin the product from wherever you've got. And the thing about Pinterest is you have to go and put this thing out somewhere on the internet before you can pin it to
Yep,
Pinterest.
it has to be live on your site,
Yep. Or
and then you can go pin it. And with Instagram, again, um, but there's tools out there. Okay. Now, I tried Tailwind. Yeah, I was so about it. Um, I ended up choosing Later. Um, and I
what do
can
these do?
you can schedule your pins.
Pins or Instagram posts?
Both.
Oh, really?
So if like my stuff always goes live on Saturday, my new stuff. So it's like when I get my um God, sorry, I'm like out of it today. It's been a long week. So when I have my blog post ready, obviously I've put images in it. Okay. And the image creation is like that drives me crazy. It really does. And but you've got images in your blog post. So utilize those, and you can schedule for it to go, like, if I know I publish my blog post at 10 o'clock in the morning and it's going to be live then, anytime after 10 on Saturday, I can schedule the new content. And you can you upload your image, you write your little captions, you can put in your hashtags for Instagram, and it's all sitting right there ready and waiting for you. And I think the reason that I chose later, and this was a while ago, so I may be really off base, is uh, when I'm working on finished items, I'm on my iPad. I'm not near a laptop. It will not auto post for you, but I think Tailwind might if you do the paid version. And I think later will if you do the paid version as well. But I'll be sitting and I'll be working on a project and I got my iPad open and you know the my little later thing comes up and says, "Hey, it's time to post blah blah blah." And you swipe everything that you've typed up because you can initiate later from your laptop, which I like. Bigger viewable area for me. Um, you swipe it, and you then it opens your Instagram account, and it says, okay, blah 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 blah, and all the hashtags and all the text that you put in gets copied right over, and it's just like bang bang bang. So I did all the work up front, and in seconds, it's out there and ready to go.
Now, Nancy has said a word that is very important several times in all of this, and the word is pictures.
Yeah.
The word is pictures. One of the things that is universal to all of this stuff is you need to learn how to take a picture. Everybody has a camera on them nowadays, and you don't need an expensive DSLR. I have one, but you don't need one. Any Apple product is going to take marvelous pictures. That's one of the platforms that they built on. But even my Samsung Galaxy, which is like 3 or 4 years old, takes good pictures. But it's just not enough to, here's your camera, here's your iPad, your Kindle, what have you, click, take a picture. Learn something about lighting, learn about composition, learn about how to take a good picture. Because if you could have the most wonderful product in the world, but if you're putting terrible pictures of it out there, nobody's going to want to buy it. So learn to take a picture. That is probably one of the most important things that you can do. Learn to take a picture.
And no matter how hard you try to learn to take a picture, sometimes you just simply you can't.
Well, I post pictures, not all the time, but occasionally. But I learned to take pictures uh, for my food blog, and I will tell you that you're going to take a lot of pictures before you get that one that you think is good enough to post out there. So don't be afraid of that either. You're going to take a lot of pictures. And there are all sorts of tutorials out there, both free and to be paid for, that will help you take better pictures. You don't need a big fancy layout you just need to have a good light colored neutral background for dark colored objects and a good dark colored neutral background for light colored objects. Lots of people don't realize that. If you've got an all white unicorn with a little, rainbow colored horn, he's going to look a whole lot better on navy blue or black. If you've got a little black and white kitty, she's going to look a whole lot better on a buff colored or white colored background. So these are the kind of things that you need to think about too. But do learn to take a good picture. It will do just about as much as anything else.
Well, the other thing that comes into play too is visual.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and this to me, I mean, I do much. I mean, I live in a house full of windows. You would think I have the best freaking lighting in the world, except I have too much.
You can have too much, and that's something else that a lot of people don't understand. Professional photographers rarely take pictures at noon in the middle of a field with lots of sun beating down, especially portraitures, because you're going to get a lot of harsh shadows there.
Yep.
You're a lot of times if you go and you can probably remember seeing pictures or on television or in films of professional photographers with all these great big lights, but they also have these great big other things that are reflecting light away because you don't want all that harsh light out on a subject, because it casts really harsh shadows behind it. It casts really harsh shadows on the person or the product itself, and you're not going to be able to see as much detail. It's not going to be as pleasing because it's going to look real hard. What you want to do when you're doing that, if you've got big windows like Nancy has, if you've got shades, pull them down. If they're light colored shades, if blackout curtains aren't going to help, of course, or get a reflector or a deflector so that you're not just getting full outline. Best time and place to take pictures is either at dawn or dusk or when it's overcast. So those are also things that you need to think about.
And
So
then, if worse comes to worse, if you just want nice images, you know, stock photos. Now, a lot of things for Yarny Bookkeeper. I mean, I spent hours making this little like desktop type area. And I got the light box, and I got the blah blah, and I got the whoozy whatsits and all the stuff. And what I find is what looks good in that little window on my iPhone, and I think, God, that came out really good. When I put it into something bigger, like my 17-inch laptop or my 32-inch monitor up at the office, it's like kicking the teeth.
well,
It's like,
that's important too. I understand what you're going with here too, because we sort of discussed this the last time we were looking at the pictures that you had set up.
yeah,
There was nothing wrong with the composition or anything, but you've got to also realize that most people look at stuff on mobile devices these days.
yeah.
So if it does look good on your phone or your iPad or what have you, then I would say that's probably good enough for government work. Um, a good 60 to 65% of the people who are looking at your stuff are going to be looking at it on a mobile device. So, I mean, there are people who are old school like me and Nancy. We do most of our stuff. I used to do most of my stuff on my laptop. I don't even take my laptop home during the week anymore. I take my laptop home on the weekends. During the week, when I go home in the evening, the last thing I want to do is stare at a damn laptop all day during the evening. I do everything on my phone or on my Kindle. And so I wouldn't worry too terribly much, but yeah, it looks great on your phone. That's probably okay because most people are going to be looking at it on their phone. I have a sister who's on Facebook all the time. She doesn't have a computer. She does everything on her phone. So so yeah, I would say not to worry too terribly much about that. It can be frustrating when you've gone and you've taken all this time and trouble to do this and to put it on your big screen and have it look terrible. But
Oh my God, you would. Well, I guess you would because you know me. You can imagine the string of foul mouthed profanities that come out of me.
Nancy gets creative with language when she's frustrated. But yeah, so but these are all things that you need to think about, and if you want to, you can ask us questions on Facebook, under the thread where Nancy's posting this, and we can go into some more detail about this. But all of this information is for free. You just have to be motivated enough to go out and find it. Nancy and I are extremely motivated about this sort of thing, which is why we can tell you the details about certain programs. And Nancy's talking about these plugins, Jetpack and MailChimp and all of these things. And what she's not saying, well, she sort of did, but all of these plugins work primarily with WordPress websites, which I know a great deal about. So you just, like I said, if you want to ask us specifics, you should do it on Facebook.
Yeah.
And we can at least point you in the right direction for some of this stuff. But all of this information is out there. Most of it is for free because Nancy says she's a cheapskate. I am too. And, I'm not going to go and pay somebody to tell me something that I can find out on my own with a little bit of work. So,
and the other side of that too is, there's, and this goes back to, there's so much information out there on the web.
yeah.
How do you, and I get so frustrated because I am a research hound.
And that's probably the one thing that Nancy and I have in common with all of this is that we both are very adroit researchers and know how to go out and find stuff. So we can help you with that too, tell you how to do it, if not do it for you.
What gets me is, I will go and I will search for something, and obviously, all social media marketing in general has changed a bazillion times.
Oh yeah.
Just in the 18 years that I've had the software business. So when I want to go and search for something, I want relevant, up-to-date information. I don't want to read a blog post from 2014.
Yeah. And that's something else too. Google's pretty good about that, about keeping more recent stuff at the top of their search results. But you do need to go and look and see, look at the date and see when something was published, because you're going to find a lot of stuff that's outdated.
But the thing is, people are getting around that, and that's, when you set up WordPress, you can not put in the published date. So that blocks that out. So, and I have actually found, and that was kind of like, was it last week? No, the week before, when I was ranting and raving about, misinformation about taxes, that there was a website that's done by a pretty popular accounting type person. And the information she was providing was only relevant for tax year 2017 and prior.
One of the ways you can get around that, Nancy's absolutely right there. You're going to find some stuff that's has no date on it when it comes up in a Google search. The easy way to do that is to scroll down to the comments on whatever article you're at, because why they will not, you can absolutely not have the date published of the actual blog post or article. All of the comments always have a date time stamp. So you can easily figure that out. If you look at something and it seems like something's outdated, just scroll down to the comments. It'll do that.
I've gotten to the point where if I'm going to, if I'm interested enough in something that Google throws up in a search, first thing I do is I scroll down and I look at the comments.
Sure. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that says, that right there tells me, either this is relevant, or, maybe it's not, or is this even worth my time?
And that's a good point too, because you're going to find out a whole lot more about whatever it is you think looks real interesting by looking at negative comments as opposed to positive ones.
Yeah.
Because this is great, this is wonderful. Most people who think something is awful, they're going to tell you exactly why.
Oh, hey, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So that's it
yeah,
for this week.
yeah.
Janice and I said, we would keep this to about a half hour today.
It's
We
been a hard week, and lots of things have happened, and I need to get to work.
Yeah, I have stuff to do too, and it's just like I want to take advantage of. Yeah, I've had a whole day off, and it's like, oh my God, how the hell did it get to be 11:30 already? I've been
Yeah,
up since 6 o'clock.
yeah, yeah. So
So thanks for joining us. If you have questions, by all means, post in Facebook underneath the post for this video, and Janice and I'll keep an eye out. And other than that, have a wonderful week. Um, Stay warm, and we'll see you next week.
bye bye.
Bye.